And how many people are going to be viewing the call?
Good afternoon, and welcome to the first meeting of the Presidential Commission on the Supreme Court of the United States. My name is Dana Fowler, and I am the designated federal officer for this advisory committee. I would like to thank all of our presenters, attendees, and stakeholders for joining us today, including those who provided public comment. Public comments submitted to our inbox, info@pcscotus.gov, and from our website have been provided to commissioners. Before we start, there are a few things you should know. This meeting is being recorded via video conference and is also being streamed live on our website at www.whitehouse.gov/PCSCOTUS. This commission is considered a federal advisory committee and is governed by the requirements under the Federal Advisory Committee Act, or FACA. My role as the DFO is to manage the day-to-day administrative operations of the committee, attend all committee meetings, and ensure the committee operates in compliance with FACA. The majority of the work of this commission will be performed by designated working groups who will produce analysis to be deliberated over by the full commission for incorporation into its final report. All of our commissioners have received training regarding FACA requirements and their ethics obligations as special government employees. In addition, each commissioner has completed a financial disclosure report that has been reviewed by ethics attorneys to identify any potential conflicts of interest. Now, in order for the commissioners to begin their work, they need to be sworn in. Before we do so, I want to note that attendance has been reviewed and we do have a quorum established. With that, let's swear in the commission members to begin their official duties. Will the commissioners, and only the commissioners, please unmute yourself, raise your right hand, and repeat after me.
I,
Insert
Allison LaCroix,
Kizzy Johnson,
Michelle Adams,
do solemnly swear
Do solemnly
solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will
I
support
will support
and defend
the Constitution of the United States
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against
all enemies,
foreign
and domestic,
that I'll bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
that I will
that I will
bear
bear true faith
allegiance
and
allegiance
to the same,
that I take this obligation freely
that I
take
take
this
obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
and that I will well
and
faithfully
discharge
duties of the office
duties of
duties
the
of the
office
the
office
office
on which I am about to enter.
on which
I am about to enter.
So help me God.
so help
me God.
God.
Congratulations, commissioners. You can mute yourself again. Thank you in advance for your service and good luck with the work ahead. And now I'll turn these proceedings over to the commission's co-chairs, Bob Bauer and Christina Rodriguez.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am really delighted that we are now convened as a commission. And I know Bob and I are both looking forward to the work that we will do together as the Presidential Commission on the Supreme Court of the United States. This is the first of what will be several public meetings of this commission to be held over the next 6 months. And the purpose of this meeting is to describe the process by which the commission will do our work that we've been charged to do, and to articulate our conception of the research and investigation that work requires, and to explain how we will ensure that we'll hear from a wide array of diverse voices as we do this research and draft a report for the president. In his executive order on April 9th, 2021, President Biden established this commission, as you all know, and he charged us with producing a report within 180 days of this meeting that provides an account, in the words of the order, of the contemporary commentary and debate about the role of the Supreme Court in our system of government. We're not charged with making specific recommendations, but rather we are to provide an evaluation of the merits and legality of particular reform proposals being debated today, many of which have historical antecedents. And so we will do some of that research as well, considering other periods in US history when the Supreme Court's role and calls for its reform have been prominent. That's a specific charge of the executive order. And we will actually assess the calls for reform themselves to assess the arguments for why reform is pressing, as well as why it might not be. In conducting our analysis, we should all remember that it's crucial that we are not just to summarize familiar arguments or rehash debates that are in academic literature or political or public commentary, but instead that we are to critically evaluate arguments and claims. And in that process, the president has expressly charged us with considering a broad spectrum of ideas. And to highlight how we plan to making sure that that is the case so that we produce the most rigorous and helpful report possible, I want to hand it to my very esteemed co-chair, Bob Bauer, to describe a little bit of our process.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Rodriguez. So we want to emphasize that we expect and we're going to be encouraging a very broad public participation. This is a commitment on the part of the commissioners and of all individual commissioners, and we will be regularly restating our interest in having all points of view available and bearing upon our work. That's the president's expectation, clearly reflected in the executive order that Commissioner Rodriguez just reviewed with you, and that we really do not believe that we can do this work without the benefit of the broadest diversity of perspectives on the issues that we're going to be considering. Now, we're also going to be wanting to share the perspectives that come our way very broadly, and that's going to be the function of our public meetings and testimony, and also through the sharing of information on our website, which I'll have a chance to talk about a little bit later as well. But many of you no doubt saw the information on the screen at the beginning of the meeting, and we'll repeat the location of the website where you can find the information, and we'll talk further about the details that you'll be able to find there about our work. In any event, this broad diversity of perspective that we plan to bring to bear on the work is absolutely critical for a topic this complex. That's the president's expectation, and we are all very committed to fulfilling it. With that, I'm going to return it to Commissioner Rodriguez for a discussion of our bylaws.
So in a moment, I will call on everyone through a roll call to vote on the adoption of the bylaws, which were circulated to you before this meeting. The bylaws essentially lay out our charge as reflected in the executive order in the terms that I initially described. They affirm, as our DFO, Dana Fowler, underscored, that we're governed by the Federal Advisory Committee Act. They provide for our DFO and staff assistance from the General Services Administration, for which we are extremely grateful. And they establish that we will meet on 6 occasions in convenings open to the public, and that we will provide notice of those convenings 15 days in advance in the Federal Register. They establish our quorum requirements and our voting rules, and affirm that we are authorized under FACA to create subcommittees as necessary to support our work. This commission will terminate within 30 days of submitting a report to the president, which is due 180 days from today, consistent with the executive order. So the commissioners have all read these bylaws, and I am now open to entertain a motion to adopt them. Commissioner Driver, do you have such a motion?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we vote to adopt the bylaws.
Thank you. So I will call you in alphabetical order, and please unmute so that we can record your voice vote in favor of the bylaws. Michelle Adams,
Yes.
Kate Andreas,
Yes.
Jack Balkin,
Yes.
Bob Bauer, Bob Bauer, are you muted?
Yes, and yes.
Will Bode,
Aye.
Elise Bodie,
Yes.
Guy Ariel Charles,
Yes.
Andrew Crespo. Commissioner Crespo had a conflict today, so we'll record that he was not here and did not respond. Walter Dellinger,
Yes.
Justin Driver,
Yes.
Richard Fallon,
Yes.
Caroline Fredrickson, Commissioner
Yes.
Fredrickson, are you muted?
Sorry, yes. Yes.
Heather Gerken,
Yes.
Nancy Gertner,
Yes.
Jack Goldsmith,
Yes.
Thomas Griffith,
Yes.
Tara Lee Grove,
Yes.
Bert Huang,
Yes.
Cheryl and Eiffel, I believe Sherilyn is not here today, so we will note her as not voting. Olatunde Johnson,
Yes.
Michael Kang,
Yes.
Allison LaCroix,
Yes.
Margaret Lemos,
Yes.
David Levy,
Yes.
Trevor Morrison,
Yes.
Caleb Nelson,
Yes.
Rick Pildith,
Yes.
Michael Ramsey.
Yes.
I vote yes. Christina Rodriguez, Kermit Roosevelt,
Yes.
Bertrell Ross,
Yes.
David Strauss,
Yes.
Florence Tribe. Commissioner Tribe here. You'll record him as also not voting. Michael Waldman,
Yes.
Adam White,
Yes.
Keith Whittington.
Yes.
Wonderful. I believe that means our bylaws are adopted and we can begin our operations. So I'm going to hand it back to Bob now, who's going to discuss our commission meetings that I mentioned at the outset and the format that they will follow.
Thank you very much. So as you heard also in the review of the bylaws that Commissioner Rodriguez just completed, we're going to have a number of days of commission meetings, 6 in all, and 2 of them are going to be meetings of public testimony. We will have testimony in the morning and the afternoon, full panels, and as many as 24 witnesses over those 2-day periods. Our expectation is that the first such meeting, and Christina let you know that we will in fact have notices in the Federal Register with these dates specified, but our first such meeting we expect to have in late June. That is to say, public testimony, and then again in late July. We will ask witnesses to submit brief written statements, which they can summarize at the outset of their oral testimony, and then respond to questions from the commissioners. We'll also have a series of public meetings thereafter in which the commission will deliberate on its analysis. It will take up the drafts that it is developing and discuss them, and those drafts will be posted publicly to our website prior to those meetings. We expect that many people will want to offer their testimony and their comments to the commission. And as I said earlier, we're going to encourage it. So all throughout this process, we're looking for written comments, and they will be in fact reviewed and taken into account by the commissioners. But we encourage members of the public to submit their comments by August 15th, 2021 to ensure that we have ample time in which to consider them. And our website will host a space where comments will be posted for the public to see. So throughout the process, we're going to reiterate this call for written testimony for all those who have views that they would like to share with the commission. Now, at the beginning of this meeting, many of you saw on the screen displayed by the General Services Administration the addresses to which written comments should be directed. Let me repeat again that those comments should go to info@pcscotus.gov, and our website, which is now live, can be found at www.whitehouse.gov/pscotus. And again, that will have a host of information on it. That includes the testimony that we will receive, recordings of our meetings, information and agendas for upcoming meetings, and materials that will be prepared for full commission deliberation at the commission meetings for that purpose that I mentioned that will be occurring subsequent to our public meetings in June and July. That is to say, in the fall. So with that, that's a rough sketch of how we propose to proceed. And now I'd like to call on Kate Andreas, the commission rapporteur, to discuss the areas of focus for our research.
Thank you. The commission will engage in 5 areas of research. The first area of research will set the stage for the commission's work by considering the genesis of the reform debate and by defining the commission's mission. The commission will consider why reforming the Supreme Court has been a subject of debate throughout the nation's history and what factors contribute to the debate of late. I'll pause here for elaboration from Commissioner Rick Pildes.
Thanks, Kate. And yes, as an initial matter, we'll consider a range of overarching questions that will shape our assessment of the more specific proposals. Among these questions will be what problems, if any, would and should court reform be designed to address? What are the thoughtful objections to any such reform proposals? How might we critically evaluate the arguments, pro and con, regarding court reform or specific proposals? And we also want to assess these issues in a broader historical context, as our co-chair, Professor Rodriguez, mentioned. So over the course of the nation's history, what issues or events have prompted serious calls for court reform? And how do we assess the arguments that were made back then for and against various court reforms at these earlier moments in American history? And how should that affect our deliberations now?
Thank you, Rick. The second area of focus will be the court's role in the constitutional system. To that end, the commission will examine debates about the scope of judicial review and the authority of the court to invalidate the acts of the other branches of government. Commissioner Will Baude.
Thanks. So we will evaluate how proposals to reform the scope of judicial review would affect the court's role in relation to the other branches of government, the separation of powers, essentially, and consider the consequences of proposals that affect the scope of the court's authority, such as stripping the court's jurisdiction, requiring it to use a supermajority when it votes to invalidate congressional action or other government action, creating a procedure for Congress to override Supreme Court decisions, and other proposals.
Thank you. The third area of focus will be the length of service and turnover of justices on the court. Commissioner Olati Johnson, could you please elaborate on this one?
Yeah, thanks, Kate. We're going to look at the justice's length of service and how frequently the court's membership should turn over. And this is going to include proposals for term limits and mandatory retirement. We'll look at arguments for particular proposals, the strengths and weaknesses of these proposals, and some of the practical and constitutional questions they raise. So thank you.
Thanks, Olati. So the fourth area of research is to consider proposals regarding the membership and size of the court. We will consider debates about whether to expand the size of the court or otherwise reform how it is constituted. Commissioner Nancy Gertner, could you elaborate on this one?
Thank you, Kate. We're going to consider the proposals, as you suggested, for the membership and size of the court and the strength and weaknesses of the various proposals. We plan to look, as others have indicated, not only at current proposals, but also proposals about membership and size that have been floated at other times in American history, including the 18th century, shortly after the Constitution was adopted, 19th century reforms, and 20th century. What do these proposals teach us about what we should be doing at this time? And then we'll look at current proposals to expand the scope, expand the membership and size of the Supreme Court, and whether those proposals require other reforms. An expanded court, for example, might require a panel system for deciding cases. An expanded court couldn't possibly sit on all cases all the time. We'll evaluate proposals to change the composition of the court, including a proposal for a lottery of judges in rotating panels drawn from appellate court judges. And obviously, we are all working together, so we'll consider how these proposals about membership and size relate to other proposals concerning the turnover of justices or term limits. So thank you, Kate.
Thank you. Finally, the Commission will consider issues around the Supreme Court's case selection and review, its docket, rules, and practices. So the Commission will analyze debates surrounding the court's workload and processes for selecting, deciding, and hearing cases, as well as its interactions with the public. Commissioner Burt Huang, could you please elaborate?
Thanks, Kate. We will consider concerns that have been raised about what is sometimes called the shadow docket, including emergency orders and summary decisions dealing with important issues, but without full briefing and argument. We will also consider a range of perspectives about the court's discretionary power to decide which cases to hear, about other aspects of the certiorari process or merit stage briefing and argument, and about transparency in the work of the court, as well as the ethical norms that govern its work.
Thank you. So as several others have noted, as we consider these various issues and other issues raised by public comment, we will engage in historical research, conduct comparative analysis, and consider parallel matters within state judicial systems. We will consider whether reform would require legislation, constitutional amendment, or reinterpretation of doctrine, or would otherwise raise legal concerns. And we will consider the relationship between reform proposals and debates about the confirmation process. So with that, Christina, I will turn things back over to you.
Thank you very much, Kate. We definitely have our work cut out for us, but I'm glad that we have a number of extremely talented and committed people, and we look forward to benefiting as much as we can from members of the public and others who are interested in this very weighty subject at this moment in time. I want to pause here before we adjourn, since we have completed our business, to allow anyone to ask a question they might have. Seeing no questions, we will adjourn until our next public meeting, at which we will hear testimony about how to think about Supreme Court reform. Thank you for your time, and I'll see you soon.